Sarah Miller was having a baby, but not from love. Her father, Joshua Miller, had done terrible things to her. He listened to a crazy preacher who said God wanted him to do this. Joshua thought his daughter's baby would bring rain to their dry land. He locked Sarah up like an animal. Every night she cried. Every morning, the women in his group cleaned the floors. After 6 months, Sarah stopped asking for help. She only wanted to escape. The desert was hot and mean. Tall red rocks stood around her like prison walls. One night, when the guards got drunk, she ran away through a broken fence. Her dress was torn and dirty. Her big belly made it hard to walk. Her bare feet got cut on sharp rocks. She could barely breathe. Wild dogs barked far away. She saw fire lights behind her, but she kept running. She ran until she couldn't see straight. She ran until the world spun around. When she fell down, she held her belly to protect her baby. She whispered, "It hurts inside too." Then she heard horse steps. A shadow appeared above her. It was Robert Thompson, a 53-year-old man who lived alone on a ranch. His wife had died 10 years ago. He talked more to his land than to people. But he had never seen anything like this before. A young woman lay by his fence. Blood was on her legs. Her hair stuck to her wet face. Her eyes could barely stay open. Robert got on one knee. He moved her torn dress to see where she was hurt, and he stopped. On her belly, someone had cut a deep mark with a knife. Someone who was crazy, not good. The girl made another painful sound. Her words were broken, but they hurt Robert deeply. "It hurts inside too." Robert picked her up. The desert wind was quiet, but quiet in the west was never safe. Somewhere out there, a father was looking for his daughter. And when that father came, how far would he go to take her back? Robert carried Sarah into his small house. The old floorboards made noise under his boots as he put her on his only bed. She was pale, her lips were dry, and she breathed very slowly. For a moment, he thought she might die right there. He got a bowl of water, cleaned the dirt from her cuts, and wrapped her belly with cloth strips. The mark on her skin made him feel sick. He had marked cattle before, but never had he seen a man do that to his own child. Sarah moved in her sleep. Her hand reached out and grabbed his arm like she was drowning. When her eyes opened, they were full of fear, but also hope. She whispered, almost ashamed, "My father did this." Joshua Miller. Robert froze. He knew that name. Everyone around there knew it. Joshua used to be a good ranch owner before he listened to a preacher who said he could hear God in the desert wind. Robert shook his head. He could not believe a man would do such things to his own child. But Sarah's voice was steady. "He said my child would be born pure because it comes from his blood. He said this would bring rain back to the valley." Tears ran down her face. She let out a bitter laugh. Rain. He gave up his soul for a storm that never came. Robert sat back in his chair, watching the firelight move across her face. This was not just any runaway girl. This was a girl hunted by her own father, carrying a baby cursed by madness. But in her eyes, he saw something worth fighting for. A spark. A reason to stand up again after years of being alone. Sarah closed her eyes, but her hand still held onto him like she was afraid the night would take her away. The house grew quiet. The only sound was the crackling fire. Robert knew the quiet would not last. If Joshua really believed he needed her for his crazy ritual, then it was only a matter of time before someone came to his door. And when that knock came, would he be ready to fight? The night outside was quiet. Too quiet. Robert sat by the fire with his gun leaning against the wall. He thought about what Sarah had said. Her father was a man he used to shake hands with at the cattle market. A man who used to laugh loud and drink a lot. Now that same man was hunting his own daughter like she was an animal. Robert made his jaw tight. The world had changed. Or maybe it had just shown its ugly side. The wind picked up. Robert heard a horse coming. He stood up, his senses sharp. He went to the door, opened it a little, and saw one rider coming to the ranch. The person got off their horse, walked with purpose, and stopped just before the house steps. His eyes shined in the moonlight, cold and hungry. Robert stepped out with his rifle in his hands, holding it steady as stone. The stranger called out in a low voice, "She belongs to us. Give her to us and no one has to get hurt." Robert held his gun tighter. Not a chance. The man smiled like he expected Robert to say no. Behind him, the horse moved around, restless in the dry night air. Robert changed his position. The firelight from the house made a long shadow behind him. "You ride back to Joshua," he said. "And tell him this. If he wants to take her, he'll have to go through me first." The man's smile went away for a moment. Silence hung heavy between them. Then the stranger got back on his horse. His last words drifted into the night, "This isn't over." The sound of horse hooves went away across the flatland, leaving only dust and the feeling of a coming storm. Inside the house, Sarah held her belly, her face pale. She knew what Robert already felt. This was just the beginning. They would come again, and next time they would not come alone. The night after the stranger rode away, the ranch was quiet. But quiet in the desert never lasted long. Robert sat awake with his rifle on his lap while the fire burned low and Sarah tried to rest in the next room. He knew it was only a matter of time, and he was right. Just before sunrise, the sound of horses came across the flatland. 3 riders. They stopped at the edge of the ranch, their shapes sharp against the rising sun. Robert stepped outside, his boots making noise on the dry ground. The lead rider got off his horse. Even before he lifted his head, Robert knew who it was. Joshua Miller. The man looked older, meaner. His eyes burned with something that was part crazy and part sad. He was not alone. 2 men followed him. They looked rough and had guns at their sides. Robert raised his rifle, his voice steady as stone. "You better turn around." Joshua's jaw got tight. "She's mine," he said. "That girl belongs to me." Robert shook his head. "She doesn't belong to anyone." Before another word could be said, one of the hired men pulled out his gun. The crack of gunfire split the morning. Robert dropped low, shot back, and the first man fell into the dust. The second man charged forward, but Robert's shot hit him in the chest, knocking him off his feet. Smoke hung heavy in the air, and Robert stumbled as a bullet scratched his shoulder. Blood soaked through his shirt, but he kept the rifle pointed right at Joshua. The old rancher breathed hard. One pull of the trigger and it would all be over. Joshua froze, eyes wide. For the first time, the fire in his stare went out. Behind Robert, Sarah stumbled onto the porch. Her voice broke. "Please don't kill him. He's still my father." Robert's finger got tight on the trigger, then slowly let go. The rifle went down. Joshua's face twisted, torn between anger and something else. He looked at his daughter. And for a moment, there was pity, even sadness. Then his eyes got hard again. "Another girl will take your place," he said quietly. And with that, he got on his horse and rode away. Sarah fell to her knees, tears running down her face. She wasn't sure if she had saved her father or only delayed the curse he carried. Robert pressed his hand against his wound, his body shaking, but his will still strong. The desert was quiet again. But in that quiet, a new question came up. If Joshua would not stop, how could Sarah and her unborn child ever be safe? The gun smoke went away and the desert returned to silence. Robert's shoulder burned, but he kept standing. Joshua was gone, leaving only dust behind him. Sarah sat in the doorway, her tears falling onto the porch boards. For the first time in years, she felt less afraid. She had been saved, at least for now. Days turned into weeks. The ranch slowly became more than just a safe place. It became a home. Sarah took care of the small garden out back, her big belly moving with each careful step. Robert fixed the roof, chopped firewood, and checked on her with a quiet nod instead of words. They were 2 broken people, brought together by chance. But in the quiet rhythm of work and rest, something new began to grow. One night, the cries of new life filled the house. Sarah gave birth to a baby girl. Small and weak, but strong enough to let out a sharp cry that echoed through the valley. She named her Grace. Robert held the newborn for a moment. The tiny fingers curled around his rough hand. A man who thought his best years were behind him suddenly felt something wake up inside. It was not just duty. It was love. Sarah smiled through her tears. "It doesn't hurt inside anymore," she whispered. And Robert believed her. The scars would never go away, but healing had begun. This story leaves us with questions that go beyond the desert. How far should a father go before he is no longer a father at all? Can broken people truly find peace when the past still waits on the horizon? And when life gives us pain so deep it marks us inside, how do we choose hope instead of giving up? Sarah and Robert found their answer in each other. They built a life from ashes. And maybe that is the lesson for us, that even in the hardest land with the heaviest burdens, love and courage can still grow. If this story moved you, let it remind you that hope can survive anywhere. The scars would never go away, but healing had begun. This story leaves us with questions that go beyond the desert. How far should a father go before he is no longer a father at all? Can broken people truly find peace when the past still waits on the horizon? And when life gives us pain so deep it marks us inside, how do we choose hope instead of giving up? So tell me, if you were in Robert's shoes, would you have pulled the trigger?